left. I'm like, all right, we're good. I didn't miss anything.
Speaking of bad movies, we're gonna be talking about the polar opposite of a bad movie
Yeah, the
right now.
complete polar opposite
A
of
movie I
Batman vs
recommended
Superman.
for Tyler to watch last week.
No, you've actually been recommending it since 2017.
Yeah,
We are now halfway
Finally,
through 20.
This is the greatest moment of my life.
I should listen to you more. So yeah, we're talking about The Handmaiden. It's a 2016 directed Park Chan Wook.
Park Chan Wook.
Park Chan Wook, who made Old Boy.
Yeah.
Has he done other stuff?
He did Old Boy. He did that movie Stoker that came out a couple of years ago. I've seen Old Boy, I've seen Handmaiden, and I've seen Lady Vengeance.
I haven't seen Lady Vengeance.
All those 3 movies are really good, but he has a lot of other good movies. Like Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance is apparently really great. I've heard people say it's better than Old Boy, but I haven't seen that. Cannot confirm. And there's a movie called Thirst, which is a vampire movie that came out in the late 2000s, which I heard is really good.
Damn. Okay, so I have some filmography to catch up on.
Lady Vengeance is really good. I've seen that, and I would recommend that. It's pretty disturbing, though.
So yeah, The Handmaid. So Matt, please explain, because I saw it for the first time last night. So please
I watched it for the 4th time last night.
So please explain.
Every year. I've seen it 2017, 2018, 2019, now 2020.
Well, I was like an hour into it, and then I get a Snapchat from you, and it just says, "Fuck, I have to rewatch it now." I was like, "Oh, nice." Because I started Snapchatting you. I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "What is this?"
So
describe your history with it.
Spoilers, and then make a huge disclaimer saying spoiler.
Yeah.
Give our general thoughts on it, and then.
Yep.
Okay, so the very bare bones plot of this movie is that it takes place in Japanese occupied South Korea, and it follows this burglar or
a thief,
named Suki. She's like a younger woman living in like a very poor South Korean area, and then this other South Korean con artist comes to her and says, I'm going to be disguising myself as a Japanese aristocrat for this very rich family in South Korea, and I want you to be the handmaiden of the heiress, this Japanese heiress I'm trying to seduce, so I can marry her, and then I can throw her into an insane asylum, and I can get all of her money.
Yep, that's basically it. And that's the movie. And
but the Japanese heiress is living with her uncle, who is a.
Oh, you froze. Oh, we might have to cut this audio out. Matt is currently very frozen. I do not know what's recording anymore. Oh wait, hold on. You froze for a little bit.
Oh yeah, you froze too.
Okay.
My internet connection's unstable this time.
Oh no. Okay, so go back. Because I'll have to edit this audio out. Hey, behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So she's living with his uncle.
Yeah. So she's living. The Japanese heiress is living with her uncle, who is like who is a Korean man who assisted the Japanese in helping take over Korea during the 1800s, and he makes his living off of forging classic literature and then auctioning it off, and then having live readings of erotic literature that her niece, the Japanese heiress, has to read for these rich Japanese aristocrats. And that's the general plot.
Yep. We will get to spoilers. We'll keep like a general discussion, but
and shenanigans ensues.
Definite shenanigans. Oh my god. Okay, so basically, the best way to describe this movie, at least for me, from my single perspective of watching it, is I think there's very few films out there that can really kind of accurately convey like a relationship and at least kind of like, hey, these characters very clearly love each other. I think there's very few movies because you're looking again. A 2-hour medium is really difficult to establish a relationship, build a connection. You have to have the arc, and you have to basically resolve a movie. I think When Harry Met Sally is one of those that kind of perfectly does it. Annie Hall does it.
Yeah.
Any movies that are entirely like that, I think the Before trilogy does it.
500 Days of Summer does it.
Well, yeah. I don't know. 500 Days. Well, we can talk about that movie. I'm not super high on 500 Days of Summer.
I haven't seen it for a long time, but I remember liking it when I was in middle school when I watched it.
Like, this is what love should be. I love Joseph Gordon-Levitt. No, I think the Before trilogy does. Yes, he did. But no, because the Before trilogy works because it's an entire hour and 45-minute movie of just them exploring the relationship. But what The Handmaid does is it wraps its narrative around. So the movie's basically set as a kind of like a play with 3 separate. Oh, Matt is frozen again. Matt's connection is unstable. Oh, man. Hello.
Hello.
You're back.
I'm going to move to the kitchen.
Okay, I'm gonna
Okay.
pause the recording real quick. Be right
Yes.
back, guys. And we're back. Matt
Yep.
changed locations. There's cats in his background now, which I won't show you, but
Because you don't know how to put video into the.
I don't know how to
movie
put
maker.
video. Also, I'm wearing a neck guard, and you guys don't need to see that right now.
You look very European right now, Tyler.
I do. I feel really European. So, yeah. So basically, I was saying that the movie's set up in a 3-act kind of play structure: part 1, part 2, part 3.
Yes.
And the movie very kind of expertly utilizes those 3 parts to kind of further develop their relationship. We'll get more into that in spoilers. But I think there are 3 things, and I think it's very hard to call things masterpieces of filmmaking.
But in this scenario.
It's really applicable. I think it's a masterpiece of storytelling. I think it has incredibly well fleshed out characters and a romance that basically is so believable that in the movie's 2 hours and 25 minutes, a little bit less than that.
And
that,
I'm assuming you did subtitles, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That the movie it's so convincing, and I think that's a very hard thing to do.
Yeah. You're like entranced in a movie when it's 2.5 hours long and it has subtitles, and like at least for me, like you don't even realize you're reading subtitles anymore. You're just so engaged in the plot that it doesn't feel like a chore to read while you're watching the movie.
Yeah. I also think the movie's really great in pacing. I think part 2 occurs about an hour and 10 minutes into the movie. Part 2 is about 45, 50 minutes long.
Yeah.
And it honestly, the part 2 ends, and I couldn't believe 50 minutes had gone by.
Yeah.
That's
not even like the best part of the movie too. Like
it's not the best part of the movie.
It's getting better and better with each part. And
there are definite elements of the movies that are surprising. I think the performances all around are great. It's surprisingly very kind of it's a smaller kind of movie than I would expect. They also do a really great thing where basically it's set not necessarily in modern times, but midnight 20th century.
I think so.
But they do
it's pre-World War II.
So sorry, early-ish 20th century.
Yeah.
But they do
like 1890s or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's not 1890s.
Well, it's pre-World War II. Let's just leave it
at that. Yeah, because there's basically cars and there's electricity.
Yeah, true. They are cars. Yeah.
But they really are. They create an atmosphere by establishing, hey, the area where they're set is a mixture basically of Japanese architecture and kind of modern English architecture.
Yes,
so
in Korea.
In Korea.
Yeah.
So you get this really excellent like mix of kind of modernism and kind of Victorian era kind of style.
It's really cool to see the cars like a cars pull up, so this looks like an ancient palace.
But then you go inside of the house, and it's like they get around a lot of electricity by having constant blackouts. But it's that really kind of unique style, which it's also you're isolating these characters, so you're in one kind of set setting that is so unique and so kind of that the setting becomes almost a character of itself. It's really really fascinating.
Kind of haunting too. Did you get like a haunt?
Matt's internet cut out again. He looks like his audio cut out, and he's like, it's like, oh, his internet's really bad today. Now I'm just staring at cats. Hello? Matt's back.
I'm here.
Okay. You asked if I got a haunting vibe from it.
Haunted house vibe.
Haunted house. Yeah. Mainly because a lot of the scenes are set at night with dim lighting and during blackouts. Yeah.
Yes.
But I don't know. So what about you? What are your favorite parts about this movie without getting into spoilers?
So the characters first, especially the two women, the two female leads, Suki and Lady Hideko.
Yep.
And like you said, like their relationship is so complex. Like you think you'd be following them for like 5 seasons of a TV show.
Yeah.
When really you're just with them for 2.5 hours. And I noticed this because I've seen the movie 4 times now. So I feel like when you watch it for the first time, you're more focused on what's going on in the plot.
Yep.
Like for me, I was watching it. I'm like, this is a really well edited and directed movie. Like for a movie that's 2.5 hours long, there really isn't much there really aren't too many lingering shots. Like it's very crisply edited. Like things are always flowing. Like when people are walking through a hallway, it's like shot of them walking through a hallway, quick shot them opening the door to the room they're walking into. Scene happens. Like there's little things that you don't notice really until like you've seen it 4 times that make you understand why the movie goes, why the movie's pace is as fast as it is, because it's so well directed. There's so many great shots, and there's so much variety in the shots too. Like I can't really go into like specifics because I'm not a film director, but I don't really know what the titles, what the moves are called. But there's so much variety in the shots that just really liven up the movie that makes 2.5 hours not feel the length that they are.
Yeah, and the movie does a really great job of wherein moments are meant to be impactful to the characters. Oftentimes, the pacing slows down, so you're in the moment with the characters. There's one specific I'll get into with spoilers, um, but it's an interaction between the two main actresses in the woods, um, where you see kind of their relationship start to develop,
Yeah.
where the camera kind of cuts and holds on their faces, and you kind of get to see the emotion in their eyes. I think what's really impressive about Park Chan-wook as a director, and I've only seen Old Boy, um, is his movies he manages to get actors and actresses that are so great at conveying emotion.
And so
Um,
they don't have to say their
yep,
emotions. Like you
it's
can
a
tell if they're directing. Sorry to cut you off, but you can tell if they're directing and acting, like what they're feeling. Not going, I am now feeling great emotion for you.
yep.
As
It's
am I.
yeah, as am I. I love you. I love you too. And you're like, no. There's again. It's so hard to talk about this movie without spoilers because a lot of my compliments of the movie rest around specific narrative elements that I think elevate the movie to kind of like a storytelling
Yeah. But okay, so we
masterpiece.
should probably go into spoilers now. But before, you want to go?
But yeah, the movie's on to stream on Amazon Prime.
Yes.
It is a hard R movie. I
Do
want to
not
throw.
if you're like our age, do not watch it with your family.
Do not watch your family. I will just there's graphic sex scenes. There's
Yes.
also other stuff. It's just graphic content movie. It's a hard R movie and it earns its hard rating.
Yes.
It is longer. It's 2 hours and 25 minutes, but like you said, Matt, the pacing is done so well that it's one of those movies where length is never an issue. Because anytime you see 2 hours and 25 minutes,
Yeah.
but it's not. It flies by. It has some of the best performances, some of the best storytelling, and some of the best just cinematography in general, with really kind of expertly crafted uses of setting as character. It's a must-see movie, and I can see why you've been holding its praise for so long.
Yeah, my second favorite movie of the 2010s. So that's
Yeah.
high, and I've seen a lot of movies, so it's pretty high praise considering we see like 100 movies a year.
Yeah.
Well,
And
especially during like 2015, 2016.
we just
we were
watch
going there
every
weekend.
single goddamn. I still haven't seen Jason Bourne.
I saw it.
Is it bad?
It's not bad. I saw it. The Jesus Christ is Jason Bourne guy.
Yeah.
He has the spoilers for Jason Bourne. He has the best death scene.
Is it really?
It's literally towards the end. Jason Bourne's like killing like all the bad guys, and he tries to stop Jason Bourne by just running at him, and he just gets shot in the head, and he falls over, and it's the greatest thing. I laughed in the theater when they're having. So it was like a year of build up for that death scene.
Is that where you just like that was when you felt cathartic release? You're like, yes.
Yeah, it was great.
No, just a backstory. Matt and I went and saw so many movies at the time where Jason Bourne, that movie was coming out. So that one line in that trailer, oh my God, it's Jason Bourne.
Yeah.
We saw it so many times that anytime it came on, we laughed. I'm glad he's dead, though.
Me too.
All right.
Okay, so spoilers for the
Spoilers for the Handmaiden. My favorite character, the Count Fujiwara.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
No, he's a great character. I know. Me to sound surprised.
No, because I really want to talk about what kind of character he is because he's so intriguing because he goes to this really great kind of narrative shift where well first we should talk about the fact that this movie is twist upon twist upon twist upon twist upon twist. Basically the first hour of the movie you're supposed to see these two characters kind of you learn the relationship, but you're seeing it from Suki's perspective, where you think that her and the Count are in it together, tricking Lady Hideko. But then, part two, you find out more backstory about Lady Hideko, which is horribly sadistic.
Tragic,
It's tragic, but then you find out that the Count Fujiwara and Lady Hideko are scheming together to basically help each other, and Suki's going under the bus. But then Hideko and Suki find out, and then they scheme against the Count and her uncle, and it's great.
What was your reaction when, when the first twist is revealed, where Suki is at the insane asylum, and then it turns out that it looks like that Hideko and the Count are framing her? Were you like?
So basically. This is why I love this movie, and this is why I think it's really a great kind of romantic movie, because it completely restructures the entire first part of the
Yeah.
movie, because you see a lot of manipulation from Hideko, but you also get to see these moments where her and Suki genuinely bond.
Yes.
And that's the one shot I was talking about where Suki talks about her mother to Lady Hideko, and you can kind of the camera like holds on their faces, and you can
Yeah.
see that like Lady Hideko's like getting kind of like genuine like sympathy, not sympathy, but there's a connection there that she's never had before, and
Because
that's
they
when you
both lost their mothers at young ages. They don't really know who their mothers are.
exactly.
Yeah.
But you also hear her telling her things that once you learn about the environment that she's in, which we can talk about, that she's probably never had this kind of care given to her, and
No.
then that completely restructures it because by the time you hear by the time the betrayal comes along, you can genuinely feel you're like, oh, she actually loves her,
Yes.
and there's the build up because you see the moments where their relationship is built and why they are connected so much. But you also get these really great moments with like the letters because Suki's illiterate, um,
Yes.
where it completely restructures the first part of the movie. So little things. That's why I want to rewatch it so bad because I really want to rewatch the first part,
And the
knowing
movie
what I've
jumps
known.
around and time a lot, but it feels so seamless when it
Yep.
does it too.
Yeah.
Like you doesn't it doesn't never feels like you're like, wait, what timeline are we in right now? And it goes back to other scenes, giving you more context to those scenes, and it's really well done. It's
Yeah.
really and it never feels jarring. Never like you're never trying to figure out what's going on because it's so well handled,
Yeah.
so well told.
What was your reaction the first time you ever saw it?
I was like, it definitely changed the way I was viewing the movie. I
Yeah.
was like, no, like I was really mad because I liked Suki a lot.
Yeah.
And I didn't. That's when I knew I was like, I have no idea where this movie's going
Yeah.
because because like I knew it was like, oh, there's still like an hour and a half left, so I don't know what's gonna happen. But like, so you're thinking like, oh, how is this insane asylum gonna play a role? And what's gonna happen with Lady Hideko? And then when you start learning about Lady Hideko's past, you kind of forget about Suki because you're so intrigued by her upbringing,
Yeah.
living with her aunts, and like seeing how she lost her mind.
Yep.
And because she under the service of the crazy uncle.
Yep.
And like you're just like it always keeps your interest. So it's like I kind of Suki's well being kind of went on the back burner for me when you
Yeah.
start learning about Lady Hideko's past.
Yeah. It does
Yeah.
a really great job of because you also start to see in that first part, you get to see Suki kind of. Well, you definitely get to see her start to fall in love with Hideko. So you
Yeah.
get these really two great perspectives of the first part of the movie is definitely a story centered around Suki, and you
Yeah.
get to see her change, and then that
Yeah.
second part restructures it so you get more of understanding of Lady Hideko.
And then the third part is like both their perspectives together.
Yeah,
And
there,
it's
there's
great.
there's an,
Yeah.
there's another great part where they trash the uncle's library,
Yeah.
and it's just these long cuts of her going bookshelf to bookshelf and just tearing stuff apart, and
Yeah.
it's on the nose clearly,
Yeah.
but
But
you get
it feels earned. Like you feel like even my fourth time watching it, I felt this great feeling of triumph still because
yep.
it's like they're finally taking control into their own hands and it feels great.
Yeah. I want to talk about the expert use of the basement.
Oh
In oh my okay. So basically, the basement is something that is first teased when the uncle leaves and they have freedom for a week, and he's like, "Hey,
yeah,
don't forget about the basement." You learn more about it, and the first showing you ever get of it is you just hear kind of noises in the background. You
yeah,
don't really know what's going on, and they don't show you it until the end, and
yeah,
it is so creepy. And there's
yes.
just because there's
Because
one
the
element.
uncle's such a creep.
He's such a great. That guy is such a good
He's
actor.
a great actor. He somehow manages to be completely an over the top villain while also being incredibly realistic, and
Yep.
that makes him more frightening.
Yeah.
You can believe him somehow, but he's so over the top, and it's amazing how he's able to pull that off.
So spoilers again. We're in spoilers, but
Yeah,
the fact that it was an octopus,
yeah,
because that completely then, because this is all at the end, so then makes you think about because the aunt, Hideko's aunt killed herself, and the uncle made basically the body stay,
yeah,
and the aunt killed herself because of the treatment by the uncle. And that's when you learn because the movie does a really great job not holding your hand. It doesn't exactly show what he does, but you get the idea mainly because you see a gigantic live octopus in a tank.
yeah. But
And
also, there's that erotic fiction book where
yep,
like the octopuses are all around the girls. So like it doesn't tell you these things, but
y-
you're able to make those connections too.
yep,
And it's like you just know that she's just maybe as a kid she had to read that book, and now just like as an adult she's just terrified of.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
masterful. It's great uses of kind of like tension building and holding expectations, holding. It's basically like it's a really great movie of letting the audience kind of
yeah.
build their own conclusions. I really love the count. I really love the count.
he's a scumbag, but he's very interesting. Like
So
he's a
basically,
bad guy, but yeah, it's he's a great character too. Like
I
you
don't
understand his motivation.
I don't necessarily think he's an entirely bad guy. I think there's this great point where I think one of the best the most well done scene in the movie is the book readings.
Yeah,
Those are the
my
best
favorite
scenes.
shot of the whole movie is, not to interrupt you, but just very quick
Yeah.
aside. My favorite like shot of the whole movie is when it's like in the flashback where the aunt's reading doing the
Yeah.
live reading, and then like as she's reading it, like the assistant like pulls like the windows back, and you get
Yeah.
like the background of the snow falling.
Yep.
Such a great shot. I love
It's
that shot.
great.
Yeah,
It's really well done. But what I love about the Count is the Count clearly has motivations that are established in the movie,
yeah,
but he's also slowly becoming indoctrinated into the society, and you see it with the book reading, where this is great. I'm kind of like in awe of it, but you can basically see him as Hideko starts to read the books, and he's part of the group that there's a clear distance established between the older gentlemen who are doing this and have been doing this for a long time, and him. He doesn't react well, they react to stuff, but you see in his eyes, and this is what I love about the actors that Park Chan-wook gets, um where you can kind of see him slowly becoming transfixed in it, and
yeah.
that eventually becomes full circle when they run away in their hotel, and the Count is like, yeah, like, I know women love it like this because you were reading it in your book, and you
Yeah.
see, like, you're like, he got ensnared, but he's ultimately kind of redeemed in the end, which the movie's not violent at all,
But the end, like
but the but like the
his torture
slow,
scene is pretty brutal.
oh my god, because it's done like, I expect, mainly because the only torture movies I've really seen are like Hostel. I'm not a
Yeah,
big torture guy, but just like the slow, like, so basically he's getting like his fingers slowly cut off
yeah.
by a paper cutter, and he's not reacting at it. Basically, he kills himself in the.
Sorry,
Oops.
but he's being tortured because the uncle wants to find out where Lady Hideko is.
Not that
That's,
that, but he wants information about what she's like in bed.
yeah, yeah, true.
Um, it's great. I don't know. His whole character of kind of like, hey, he has clearly established motivations. Oh, Matt froze.
All right,
Hello?
I'm
Oh,
back. Yeah,
okay, you're back. We have really bad internet. Sorry, guys.
yeah. Well, my internet's pretty bad right now, but it's at least like the pauses aren't as long as they were.
No,
Now
I'm
they're
not.
moved.
I can always go and cut them out. I won't, but you know.
Yeah.
So, what are your favorite parts about the movie? Going into spoilers.
Oh, I just want to talk about his like redemption again
Yeah,
really quickly because you kind of cut out for a little bit, but I just want to include the fact that he sort of gains more respect for Hideko like towards
yeah,
the end, as you can tell, because the Count wants to know all like the details, and he's like, "How dare you insult her honor?" or
yeah,
whatever. And then at the end, like his last thoughts are because earlier on when they're outside and she's like, I don't want to like kiss you or anything. And he's like, oh, I'll just imagine you as being Lady Juliet, who is the character she played in that live erotic reading that she did. So he
yeah,
doesn't see her as a human being, sees her as like a sex symbol basically at
yeah,
that moment. And then at the end, he finally views her as a human, and his last thoughts are of her as like kind of as a real person
yeah,
interacting in reality. So I thought that was a very nice redemption for him at the end too.
yeah. He's clearly they.
Yeah,
It's such a great, because there are really only four main characters in the movie,
yeah,
and it's very clear by the poster too. It's just the four characters.
yeah,
But you have your clear established romance, your villain who's redeemed, and then your villain who they basically, you kind of get that aha moment. We got you.
yeah,
Um, but it's really smart because that cigarette, or basically is Chekhov's gun, because
yeah,
you see him constantly taking the white cigarettes, but the blue ones are already there, and you find out the blue ones are laced with mercury.
yeah,
So he smokes it, kills himself. You see him ask, he's like, "There's no windows in here, right?"
yeah.
And then he kills himself.
And the uncle and the yep,
But there's also this great shot where he kind of accepts his death by breathing in the smoke
yeah.
more. It's
That's when he's
great.
saying the flashes of Hideko.
Yeah,
So
and you hear his breathing, kind of just
yeah,
taking it in. It's great. He's honestly like, he was my favorite character because of, well, one, because I love when he comes and knocks on the door and he's like, "Hey, um, I will be honest. This is who I am, and this is what I'm going to do. But I can give you freedom."
yeah,
He's like, I'm a bad person, but I can give you
yeah,
freedom. I know what's going on right now. But then, so you clearly establish a distance between him and all the real bad people, but then he becomes kind of like ensnared by it, interested in it, and then you get his redemption. It's great.
Yeah.
I don't know. What are your other favorite parts of the movie?
So I just like very specific points in history.
Yep.
Like, so for example, I mean, how many there are like a million World War II movies, a million Cold War movies. Like, oh, here's Dunkirk. Here's a story that you already know what's going to happen in it, how it's going to play out. Like, this is so. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So this is such a specific time. Like, Japanese occupied South Korea is very specific in itself.
Yep.
But then putting further like narrowing it down even more to like the domestic sort of what's it called, like the feminist side, I guess, of that era too. So there's a lot of like really so for a little bit of a history lesson, if you will.
Go for it.
The Japanese were basically trying to like erase Korean culture at the time when they were occupying it, and so like in schools, like kids would have to learn Japanese, not Korean.
Yep.
And something like hundreds of thousands of Korean women were basically used as were basically turned into sex workers at the time. So there's a lot of animosity still for Koreans today against Japanese. I think recently I saw this on an Inside Gaming video where they are posting like where it's like the Sonic company, what's it called, Bandai or whatever.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
was making Sonic shirts, and they had like Japanese writing on it, and they were being shipped to like South Korea.
Yeah.
And like the South Koreans were really upset because they're like they don't want really much to do with Japanese culture, because that era has been largely erased, at least in the West, and the way that the Japanese treated the Koreans at the time was very brutal.
Yeah.
And it's not really talked about very much here. And you see that like throughout like the whole movie, and especially like during the Lady Hideko flashbacks.
Yeah.
And like there's that scene where like they're reading like the book, her and her aunt, and like the uncle just walks up and puts like his hands over their mouths.
Yep.
You can't and like they have like their freedom. Their hands are free. They can try to resist, but they don't. They choose not to, because they know like the consequence is gonna be worse if they try to resist, and there's nothing they can do about it. And there's also like the fact that the uncle is trying to get the aunt thrown into like an insane asylum, but he's the one who's clearly insane. He's the one who's torturing her, and she's becoming insane because of his torturing. And he's completely crazy, and yet he's viewed as being normal.
Yeah,
so
you get a lot.
There's like all these subtle things that they point out that I think are really brilliant.
Yeah, you get a lot of that language animosity.
Yeah,
a lot of
and
times
like you can tell the director, like Park Chan-wook, is still very bitter, rightfully, I guess, bitter towards like Japanese occupation of Korea.
Yeah.
Because the Japanese aren't really portrayed in a particularly good light in this movie.
No, yeah, a lot of the times, maids around are speaking Japanese, and they slap them and like, "Hey, speak Korean."
Yeah.
Basically like that. There's a lot of language. That's actually very interesting. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this movie is. It's just kind of like it should be the textbook way on how to kind of subvert expectations. Really cliche way to say, but
in a satisfying way, unlike Ryan Johnson in Star Wars, where it's like, oh, you thought he would turn the lightsaber on and be like, oh, this is so cool. No, he throws it upon his back.
Look at him go. He's so cool.
I like Ryan Johnson. Knives Out's a really great movie.
Yeah, right. Knives Out is a really great movie.
Yeah.
I like Looper. You don't.
I like the first half of Looper.
And then it gets stupid, is basically what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like The Last Jedi.
Yeah, I mean, Last Jedi was kind of bad throughout, though.
We should rewatch Last Jedi for one of these things.
It took me 3 settings to rewatch Last Jedi.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I could. It took me 3 settings to do it.
Well, when we eventually do our Star Wars podcast, we'll bring on another voice who we can force to rewatch The Last Jedi, so we don't have to. We can just look up the Wikipedia summary.
Yeah,
I remember that. Mark, what do you say?
One more thing I want to talk about in this movie that I think is fantastic is the soundtrack.
Yes,
the score in this movie. I've listened, like I have, I didn't buy the soundtrack, but like it's on YouTube.
Yeah,
so I've listened to like songs from that, like the music during like the montage of like the aunts, the music. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, the music like during the flashback of like the aunt's suicide is really great.
Yeah.
The song.
Matt's family walked into camera. That's why there was that awkward pause.
Yeah, the song where just go this way, whatever. The song where Suki and Hideko are escaping not escaping, but they're leaving like the mansion.
Yep.
When they're like, especially like the second time, like when they show it again, like it's that music there is really good. The song's called My Tamako, My Suki. Oh, that's also going back to the Japanese thing. Like she has to change her name too when she gets when she has to start working with in the palace. Like she can't be Suki anymore; she has to be Tamako because
Yep.
it's a Japanese name, things like that. So yeah, the soundtrack I think is phenomenal, and I think it's worth listening to on your own too because whoever composed it, it's very brilliant in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah. So that's basically Handmaiden. Basically, if you want again graphic content, but if you want one of the more believable romances
Yeah,
put to film, with kind of like actually because I think the Before trilogy is great, and I think there's a really great example of this. But they're clearly a movie with one set goal. Hey, we just want to develop this relationship. The Handmaiden has that, but it also has kind of like
there's
actual.
conflict.
Yeah, there's conflict. There's
You feel
other
like the
narrative
odds are stacked
elements.
against them, and then
Yep.
it's it's rewarding when they finally get to be with each other
Mm-hmm.
because they have literally everything is going against them. They manage to overcome it.
Yeah, it's basically like it's one of those movies because again, the Before movies are a great aspect of how to build characters, but The Handmaiden does this, but has a complete movie around it. It has a complete movie that is incredibly well done in every other element too. It's not just well done in like cinematography.
And it's
it
like
has,
a history. It's like a
yeah,
history lesson too, which is interesting.
it's a near perfect kind of combination of other elements. And I'm again, this is a movie I'll probably end up rewatching soon, just so I can get a whole kind of gist of it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's The Handmaiden. So
Saw it
now,
for the fourth time last night. It's my best viewing of the movie.
oh my god, it's the best.